Today, we're delighted to introduce you to ECA Commercial Associate Causeway. Andrew and Eoghan here will give you a comprehensive look at Causeway Ermeo, a digitised mobile workforce management solution for M&E contractors. So Andrew and Eoghan are up on your screen now. And before I hand over to Eoghan, I'd just like to remind you that you can use the question button that should be up on your screen now at any time during today's presentation to ask our presenters a question, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available this afternoon on ECA's YouTube channel. That's at youtube.com/ECA Live. And with that said, back over to you, Eoghan, for the presentation.
Perfect, thank you very much. Cool, so I think we'll kick off with a couple of slides and then we'll jump into a presentation. So to begin with, my name's Eoghan Simpson. I'm the Senior Solutions Manager here at Causeway. The webinar today is going to be split into about 4 bite-sized sections. So first, we're going to look at the challenges M&E contractors face by using paper and manual forms out in the field. Next, we'll provide you with an introduction to our mobile workforce management tool, that is Causeway Ermeo. For the third section, my colleague Andrew here will provide you with a live demonstration of the solution. He'll show you how to configure your own mobile forms in the editing studio. And this is the no-code platform, so anyone can build forms using the drag and drop builder. He's specifically going to look at how easy it is to digitize electrical installations and fire tapping tests, but we'll also cover some other interesting use cases which may be relevant to your business. Then finally, to finish the presentation, we're going to look at 2 case studies with NG and county contractors and how both of those businesses have increased productivity using Causeway Ermeo. So really, from speaking to our customers and other people in the industry, we found that a high percentage of site and field-based processes are still very paper-based or manual. And then even those who have introduced software, we're finding it's combined with paper documents in other areas of the business. And specifically when it comes to M&E, we're finding that you're using an array of different systems to manage mobile forms, from things like Microsoft Office to installation software or auditing software. And by using all these different systems and processes, we find it has an impact on the visibility and traceability of work in the field. These systems don't tend to speak with each other, and then data becomes complicated to find. And one of the biggest consequences of this is that valuable data that's collected isn't trusted and then just can't be used. So really, why is this? And on this slide here, we've got a couple of the challenges and barriers that we typically hear. And really, what can you do to overcome these? Well, firstly, it's about going back to basics. So identify the processes that are paper-based, manual, or inefficient. Then it's not about looking for the easiest or cheapest solution. Ultimately, you need to look for the one that will provide the best value and save you the most time or money. And on this next slide now, you can see some of the savings that the customers using Ermeo have made in their business following them digitizing themselves. So as you can say, digitizing these processes have significant return on investment. So saving time on the capture of data, reviewing data, and removing the rekeying of data makes both the site-based teams and the office teams more efficient. So I've already mentioned it a couple of times, but what is Causeway Ermeo and how does it work? So it's a powerful workforce management solution that's been built with mobile-first principles and has this no-code platform. So that gives you the ability to digitize any paper-based or manual form into a fully customizable digital workflow. And the great thing here is that you don't need to be a programmer. It's really, really easy. In a couple of minutes, Andrew's going to provide you with a live demonstration of how it works, giving you a flavor of some of the use cases. In terms of the solution, so it's been around for about 7 years and was founded in France. Now a well-established name in the global construction and fuel sectors. As you'll see on the next slide, it's already been used by organizations which would be very familiar to many of you on this call. So the solution is already used by over 40 customers, including the likes of SPE, NG, and county contractors. It's been designed with scale in mind, so it can be used by companies of all sizes. And we had a great example recently with an M&E contractor. I'm not going to go into too much detail, as Andrew will demo it shortly, but once again, they had an array of systems and processes across different functions. It included using paper sheets and workbooks, Word, Excel, and basic form software for health and safety auditing. As part of one of our discovery sessions, we had a workshop where we were able to show the value of Ermeo and how it would replace these processes and solutions. And during this session, they mentioned spending lots of money on their auditing software. When we dug a little deeper, they were keen to use Ermeo for this, but were unsure on how it was going to produce the same end report that they were typically used to. We had them provide a blank report, and then using the Causeway's Ermeo's simple report builder, we're able to set it up to automatically populate that report with the information the electrician had provided on the app. The end report then was the exact same, which meant they could replace the auditing software, and in the end, it ended up paying for Causeway Ermeo and all the other use cases alone. So on the next slide, we'll just go through how you actually build up digital workflows. So I'm not sure if that is still presenting. I think it might have just gone black for us. So hold on.
1 second, sorry, let me just.
Cool, there we go. So basically, there's 4 steps to building the dynamic and interactive workflows. First is to take your paper or manual documents and produce a fully customizable mobile form using the no-code editing studio. Step 2 is where you can start pre-filling the forms with the latest data as well as historic information. This can be made available in real time to your field and site-based workers via the mobile app. And by doing this, it helps ensure they're more productive and, more importantly, are working with the most accurate and up-to-date information. Step 3 is then all about creating real-time information flows and standardizing collection across your business. Your field and site workers can use the mobile app, which, by the way, also works in offline mode, to complete your forms, which eliminates errors and makes data available to those who need it as quickly as possible. The final step then is about bringing all this key information together and integrating with existing systems. We can integrate it with any external data sources and synchronize it directly with the data collected by our forms. We can also then integrate it with systems to pre-populate information onto the forms. So then on the next slide, we'll see some of the benefits and what Ermeo can bring to your business. So firstly, we can improve data collection and ensure there are fewer errors. There'll be better collaboration between back office, field and site-based teams. You'll see enhanced project and job compliance by having set processes in place. It'll provide a more sustainable way of operating. And then ultimately, it'll save time for your operatives and improve productivity. So now I'll pass over to Andrew, who will provide you with a live demonstration.
Thank you, Eoghan. Right, so today we're going to have a look at 2 aspects within the Ermeo platform. The first that we'll look at, and what you're looking at the moment, is the behind the scenes view. So this is the web platform, the platform itself, where whilst on a day-to-day basis, you might not be using it that much, but it's important to start with because you're setting up the forms here, you're setting up the system and you're configuring it. For our customer implementations, sometimes we will support our customers, sometimes we'll build the forms for our customers, but really one of the main strengths of the platform is that we can very easily show you, and you can learn yourselves, how to actually configure the forms yourselves. So as you want to put more and more uses or use cases and examples in the system, as you want to get more and more use out of it, you don't need to come back to us each time, or if you need to change any of the existing forms, all of that power and all of that capability is within your hands. Not everybody within your business, but certain key people that have, have been trusted with that capability. So on the left-hand side, you can see that I'm in the first area of documents. Now, the documents in this sense are two different types of documents that you can create. You'd add new documents, top right, you could just add new documents here. And most of the documents that we find being added into the platform are the forms. So these are the, to start off with the blank forms, and then you build those up to actually be the forms that you want people to complete, replacing, as Eoghan said, the Word, the paper, the Excel, the PDFs, those sort of spreadsheets that you're sending. So you create those within here, and I'll show you more of that in a moment within the studio. But you can also add PDFs as well. And the types of PDFs that you would add in would then be the guidance, the manuals, the notes, the sort of the information that you want to give everybody of how to complete the forms or within their policies and procedures. So you're not putting all of your project and site and customer documents within here. It's really about the key information, the policies that people would use to refer to when completing some of the information. So we've got then some folders. So you've got lots and lots of forms within your business. You can break them down into logical folders. So you might want to have all of the health and safety forms and inspections and COSH assessments and accidents or near misses, those sorts of things. And risk assessments, you might want to have those separated out. You might want to have maybe plant inspections or equipment inspections within one area. You might want to have other site forms in a different area, such as timesheets, diaries, activities, all of those sorts of things in one place. But what I'm going to dive into a little bit more detail now is within the mechanical electrical folder, and as Eoghan mentioned earlier, some of the forms here. So here are some of the example templates that we've got within the library that our customers are welcome to have. And you can take these and use them, take them and amend them, or create your own from scratch. So let's go into one of these forms here. So as I go into this form, we've got a few different options, but the first thing and the most common place that we'll go to is the studio. So Eoghan was using the term a no-code environment, and this is really where that is proven, and one place that you see that. So this is where you start off actually and creating the forms and then amending the forms later on. You've got the wider space in the middle where I'm highlighted at the moment, and that's effectively the canvas. So when you look at any of the forms that you want to get created within your system, and you look at a typical form, there's types of information you want to capture. Sometimes you want to capture some text-based information, sometimes it's a date, maybe a time, sometimes you want to capture a photo or anything like that. And what we have on the left-hand side in the darker grey section are all of the components that we can drag and drop onto the form. And you can see as I drag and drop, it will just highlight exactly where we want to place that new piece of information to capture. In this example, a simple text field. So if I wanted to capture some information perhaps about the client or a job reference or anything like that, I could quite simply drag and drop that field into place, give it a title. I could use the description field for additional help and additional information. I could use the icon from the library or add my own into the media to make it a little bit easier for people to complete by making it a little bit more graphical. You can have some options to show this information. You can make this particular answer mandatory. Before they complete the form, they have to fill this in, or you could even do it so that it's mandatory to see more, so that they can't even get to the next question. So it kind of steps them down the form as you go through. And then you can see things like long text, so you want a text box versus a text line. But really that's what you're doing to configure the forms, is drag and drop all the forms in place, give it a name, make it mandatory or not, and then carry on. So a text is one of the most common, but clearly, a simple type of field. You could also have things like pictures. So if you want to allow somebody or force somebody to take a photo at a certain point in time, you can drag and drop a picture component onto the form. Again, same sort of parameters, make it mandatory, give it a name, for example, that sort of thing. If you want to capture their location or the location of the phone or the tablet that they're using or the PC to complete that information, you can drag and drop a GPS coordinates. So that's the the satellite reading on the phone to capture. And then there's other advanced things like barcodes or QR codes, things like that. So if you are using any of those types of tags, perhaps on equipment or any tools or people, cards, anything like that, within the form itself, it'll pop up to say scan the barcode or the QR code. That will then grab the number or the code or the reference or whatever is the code behind that particular tag. And then you can use that for a lookup or to populate the form automatically. And we're finding those things really useful when you're just want to speed up time without having to enter serial numbers. If you can just scan the barcode, of course, it's much quicker. There are some reference to databases here. So databases is where you can start to pre-populate information into the form from a library of information. So you might want to set a database up, and if I just go to the database on the left-hand side, you can see the sorts of databases that our customers are creating. So perhaps for all of your clients, all of the buildings, all of the projects, all of your suppliers, anything that you want to have standard information that when you select it, so you're not asking people to type in, but they can select this information, and then when they bring that onto the form, it can bring all of the associated information. So if you brought the job onto the form or the site onto the form, it could then bring through the people involved, the client, the contact email addresses, name addresses, all of that information could be stored within the database here and then could be made available automatically within the form. Another very powerful use of the database is to capture the information that you're creating or amending within the form. So within the form, perhaps you're recording near misses, or you're recording requisitions, or you're recording any sorts of events. All of that information can then be stored within the database, and then you can go into here and of course have a look at the information or have a look at it on the mobile app. You could export the information quite simply to something like Excel, for example, just to take a quick output. But where we're seeing this becoming particularly powerful is if we use something like Microsoft Power BI, which is the sort of the standard dashboarding or business intelligence tool that comes with the Microsoft suite, then you can provide sort of rich analysis of the information with drill downs, pie charts, bar charts, points on maps, etc. So really one of the key advantages that our customers are seeing of using the platform itself is rather than having information trapped on a piece of paper, trapped in a scanned image, trapped in a Word document, by using an online form, that information is stored in a very structured way. So not only can you very easily tell when people are completing forms or starting forms or whatever status that they're at, but if you want to analyze the data that they've entered into the forms by using an online form and the database, you can then start to then really drill down into the trends, the analysis of that information. And you could do that within Excel, or you could do that within a more powerful business intelligence tool. Just going back to the documents a second here. So that was a little bit about the databases and how they come into it. But you can start to select databases, and then you can start to build more and more information into the forms. So for example, this particular one is all the checklists to say, are the proposed fire smoke and damp test in line with the specification? Has everything been approved? Is there a method statement and a risk assessment in place, etc., etc. So whatever types of information you want to capture, whatever you want to ask, you can put hold points in so that if they don't answer yes at a certain point in time, then they can't move on and they have to go and do something else. So all of those sorts of things can be captured within the system, as well as text boxes, pictures, photos, images to mark up, anything that you want to capture, all that sort of information within the form itself. And some of the forms are just very, very simple. Just capture a photo, simple information, that's it. And then others, by their very nature, are more complex and a little bit more involved. And then typically at the very end of the form, you might be capturing a signature, maybe the engineer and the the client's signature itself, so you can drag and drop some of these components onto the form. And then, if you want to route the form round, you can then use this component here. So if you started to complete a form, but you need to send it to somebody else, either for approval or to continue, then you could use this transfer component, which would forward the form onto someone else that would ping on their device, appear on their phone or their tablet, and they would then continue that or send it back to you, whatever's relevant. And then at the very end of the process, the system would typically be set to automatically email a copy of that report to you, to somebody else, or to be filed into a controlled document management system if that's in place, or email to multiple people. So it might be emailed to the client, back into the office, and to the operator, and to the engineer, to the operator themselves, or it might just be saved, filed away into our own Causeway document management system, or if you're using something like Microsoft SharePoint or one of those sorts of or equivalent, then it could be automatically filed into the correct place within there as well. So that's the sort of the end point, and the end result. It has this idea of a template. So once you're completed the form and that's been filled in on the device, that would automatically populate a template, which would typically be based on probably a Word document. I'll just show you an example of this one here. Just as an example of the template itself. So it's a standard Word document, and the system would automatically populate this, a little bit like a mail merge capability within Word, that all the template and the images and the photos and the answers, all of that would be automatically populated into the existing forms that you use today. So if you've got any Word or Excel versions of the form, whilst people aren't filling in that Word or Excel document, what they end up with is a completed version of exactly that Word or Excel document, probably PDF'd, because often people want it to have an uneditable version, or as uneditable as PDFs get, at the end of that process, but that's just completely automated. So you set up all of the fields by dragging and dropping them on. You then apply the template if you want it to look like a certain form, and then you publish the form. And really that's mainly what's involved in setting up the forms behind the scenes. We've got the documents to set up the layout, the databases to capture the forms. You set up all of the users, and you can apply different permissions and teams, etc. And then you can, if you want to, involve jobs. And what jobs are is they are the forms as they're being completed become a job. So some of these forms, the forms can be completed ad hoc on the device. So effectively you're giving each person just a library of forms that they walk around with them, always in their pocket, or depending on how big the tablet is in their hand, and that is then available for them to complete. But as well as that, if you wanted to prompt somebody or push a form to somebody in advance, you can say, okay, I know you're being sent out to do, so I would like this person to complete an electrical isolation certificate, and that might be related to a particular job number or a client reference or something like that. Maybe you would associate that to a particular job or a client or something like that. And then I could push the form out to somebody. So if I wanted to say, okay, I would like Owen to complete that form for that particular job, and I would like him to start it on Monday and to have finished it by Tuesday next week, and I of course can set the time as well. That would then send that form proactively to Owen. It would be sat on his device, and if he doesn't complete it in time, it would then turn late. So you can manage the completion and the processing of work within the system as well. You don't have to, I'm just showing you how you're sort of sending the jobs manually through the system here, but you could do that automatically by interfacing this with another system, or there's sort of import routines with Excel as well. But typically, if there's a planning and scheduling tool or some other system that's pushing the information in, then you could get that to automate the actual creation of that job and sending it and allocating it to somebody. But that's really what's involved in setting up the system, design the forms, make sure we're capturing all the information the right way, and then you can send jobs to people. What I'm going to do now is just to show you what that looks like when you're filling the form in on the device. So I'm just going to actually show you on my phone. You can use this on a web browser, so you can complete it on a web browser, but you could also complete it on a tablet, or I'm just going to show you on a phone here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the Ermeo app on my phone, and you'll notice there's a little yellow sort of progress bar, and which is now turned green at the bottom. So if you're quick, you saw that it was doing a synchronization. So whilst you're working on the app, you can work offline, online, doesn't really matter. The system will then just automatically synchronize anything up if you're in an area without connectivity. So first of all, just going to my home, to the home button on the app, and typically where you'd start, you can see the jobs to do. So if you've been sent any forms to complete, or the paused ones, if you've started any but haven't finished those yet, they will be sat nagging you on the screen. So you can see that on your home page, or you can go to the jobs option and down the bottom right, and here you can see by date when you should complete, whether they're late, still on time, etc. I've then got access to all of the documents. So any forms that I've got permission to see, I can now see them on my, in this case, phone or my tablet, and I've got access to those. So if I go into that mechanical and electrical form that I saw before, and I want to start completing my fire smoke damper installation, I've now gone into the form. So you saw the behind the scenes, how we started to drag and drop those fields on. This is what it looks like when you're completing it. But of course, it really varies depending on how you set up the form. Lots of flexibility, as you've just seen. But in this example, I'm getting it to populate some information automatically, like my name, date, time, for example. I could then, have some lookups to say, well, actually, I've got a list of my buildings and I've got a list of the rooms and the databases. So let's select some information from pre-built lookups. Let's go into some of the checks that I need to do just to make sure is everything in line with the specification. Yes, it is. That's fine. Yes, it is. I'm happy with that. Let's save that away. And now I could go into some other checks that have been added. So have we got all this information? Yes, we have. Do we have everything in place? You see the form is automatically scrolling to make it really quick for somebody to complete. And once I'm happy with that, I can just go through. And now I'm actually starting to create more detail within the form itself. Again, the exact information within the form would really vary on the sorts of information that we need to capture and enter within the room itself. I won't go through all of this form, hopefully getting the idea, but it may involve taking photos. So of course it will just launch the camera, which I can then do. This isn't necessarily a fire smoke installation, but anyway. And if you have got any photos or if you've uploaded any drawings, then you can highlight any issues that you've seen or anything that you want to from the photos itself. And then you can start to complete more and more information within the form itself. So hopefully that gives you a good feeling for the sorts of information as we're going through and we're capturing it. I could pass it to Eoghan to sign and sign it there, and because there's no one else in the room. And then could start to put that in. And then finally, once we're happy and everything's been finished, it would then send that report to the client, file it away into the appropriate folder within my system, or send it to wherever it needs to go to. So I don't need to worry about that. I've got the latest version on the form. It's quicker to fill in because it's all lookups and everything's to hand. I don't need to start uploading photos from somewhere else or anything like that. If there was any guidance that I needed, all of that could be linked within the form itself. So as a person filling in the form, all of that information is just kind of sort of done for me, and I don't need to then particularly worry about anything else. That's just all there. And that's really just trying to give you a good feel for what's involved. And now that will then create automatically a PDF copy of the completed form, email it away, so I don't even need to worry about that. As somebody that's got all the completed forms, I will always have a copy of any form that I've completed on my device so that I've got a reference to it, and all of the sort of the information supporting that as well. So hopefully that gives you a quick run through some of the basic capabilities of the Ermeo platform. Of course, the more and more you dive into it, the more and more detail you get into, but really just covering the idea of the documents in the studio where we set up the forms, the databases where we can set up the lookups or capture the information for reporting, concept of jobs, and then what it looks like to somebody on their phone or their tablet when they're actually completing this out and about. Okay, so now we'll head back to.
Great, thanks Andrew. So yeah, I suppose now it's just to look at a couple of the use cases. And firstly, we're going to look at county contractors. So their challenge is they had siloed libraries of forms. So hundreds of forms edited by different employees. And look, it was a clunky process really. So they have a large standard, big form register, and lots of people had these workaround versions where somebody thought they had a better way of doing it, so they then edited the document and used that themselves. Back at head office, it made it very tough to standardize and even harder to track. So in the summer of 2021, they made a leadership change, which added a lot of fresh experience from the field. And they brought a perspective that better understood the company's digital vision and how board level decisions should be made. They looked at a lot of generic solutions, such as SharePoint, Microsoft Forms, Power Apps, and Power BI to solve it. But ultimately, it was very complex, and they would have needed to hire in lots of programmers. I think one of the good quotes they had was that they reached a point where either they need to employ a developer to help set up the background structure and processes, or try and source a product that already had the backbone in place. And all of this would need to be done before moving on to actually creating the forms. So they chose Causeway Ermeo to digitalize forms, and they also then chose Causeway Docs to store all those documents in a centralized hub. So next up, we also then have NG. So again, before Causeway Ermeo, the inspections for installations were done on paper and spreadsheets and these carbon copy booklets. As you can imagine, processes like this are fairly complex, time-consuming, and open to human error. And this often led to costly consequences. So by adopting Causeway Ermeo, it transformed these heavy processes into a seamless experience, with maintenance forms being pre-filled with the right data, and operatives given access to asset history. So now technicians have everything they need to perform and record the work correctly, and alerts are set up to ensure no steps are missed. Next up, just in order to get you going as quickly as possible, as Andrew demoed in the solution, we've got a set library of forms. So these forms can be taken by ourselves, amended, or just taken straight out of the box. And ultimately what we're trying to do here is help you return on your investment. There's a lot on the website, so what we'll do after the webinar is send that out to you so you can have a look. But if you've got a form in mind that you'd be interested in digitizing, please do reach out, because we'd love to show you how easy it is to do. And then that ultimately brings us to the end of today's webinar. Hopefully you found it valuable and the subject was interesting. As you can see, we can turn any paper or manual process into a fully customizable mobile form. And like I said, if you've got a process in mind, please reach out and we'll show you how easy that is to digitize. But for now, I'll just hand back to Omar.
Great, thank you very much, Owen and Andrew, for your presentation and very comprehensive demonstration there. Clearly a very powerful and intuitive piece of software and some excellent use cases that I'm sure our audience will have found very useful. Before I launch into the audience questions, where's the best place to find out more information and to get in touch with you?
So the best place will be the Causeway website. We've also got some videos and case studies on the website and blog posts, which we can share with you following the webinar.
Great, thank you. And that we'll also make that information available in the video description if you're catching us on YouTube. So launching into the questions now. Do you provide training sessions for new members and their staff?
Yeah, I'll answer that one. So yes, we do. So typically, the first thing that we would do is give our customers access to the online training environment. So you can go through all the online courses to sort of, get an introduction, get yourself familiarized with the terminology. There's also lots of online resources as well. So the online help and the sort of tutorials within there are very, very helpful. And then we will, of course, do the personal thing, either in person or remote, depending on which suits and whatever is practical to support our customers. So for some of our customers, they just take the training and run with it, and then we will check in with them, once a week to start with, and then they're on their own as they want to be. And others, they say, actually, we've got this existing library of forms, 20, 30, however many forms they've got in their business. They give them to us, we can then build them, and then they can hand it over to them once it's built, depending on sort of where our customers are. And probably what we'll find best is a bit in the middle. So a bit of training, maybe we'll build the first form for you to get you going, and then work with you on the second, and then to sort of show you how it works. Our idea is not to, we're not trying to kind of be a bottleneck in the process. So if we can assist in getting use out of the platform as quickly as possible, great, but we wouldn't want you to have to come to us every time you want something changed or something done. Really, we want to get you self-sufficient as quickly as possible, and we'll support that in however we can.
Great. I'll combine a few questions into one here because a few of them are quite similar. So first of all, what's the kind of typical ballpark cost for a small to medium-sized business, and is that a sort of sliding scale with the number of logins given per business?
Yeah, so it's fairly straightforward. It's a user licensing price. So you've got 3 types of users: one for subcontractors, if you want to give external access; one for mobile users, so that's people out in the field using the application; and one for administrative licenses, so as Andrew showed in the background, making up the forms. In terms of pricing, it follows a sliding scale, so the more people you put on, the cheaper it gets, but it really varies depending on the size of the business. It might start at 5K and go up from there, but if you want to give us the user numbers, we can work that out and come to you with that.
Great, and also just a reminder there that the links to more information will be included in the description of this video. So when it comes to integration with other platforms, Microsoft Forms, SharePoint, etc., how does that work?
So there's a number of different options depending on how which system and what type of integration is required. If it's something, often our customers will use things like there's open APIs for the more technically minded, and if there's any sort of developers or people working in the IT realm out there, then they'll understand that. So there are application programmable interfaces. There's basically sort of ways to kind of do things and get data programmatically from other systems where we want to integrate it with other systems. Where it's integration with things like SharePoint, so maybe things like file a form once it's completed, then there's automation that can be, you wouldn't need to use the API, so there's a simpler way that we will work with our customers to set up using something like Microsoft Power Automate is the most common way, which again is a sort of an automation tool as part of the Microsoft suite. So there's a few different ways that can be done. but lots of different options there. But it's really a very open platform, and you can get to data in and out very easily from other systems.
Thanks, Andrew. And I think you mentioned this earlier in your presentation, but to use Ermeo, you don't have to be online all the time from your device. You can use it online and offline. Is that correct?
That's right, exactly. With the app, as you may have seen, it will just synchronize automatically in the background, so that whether you're working with a signal or without a signal, then it'll just carry on. The experience will be the same, and it'll just synchronize up whenever you do have a signal.
Excellent, thank you. I can't see any further questions in the question section, so we can wrap up for today. Thank you once again to Andrew and Eoghan for an excellent presentation. And thanks also to our audience today for watching us today. And like I said, more information should be available with the replay and follow-up email that you'll receive if you're watching us live. So thanks again, everyone, and hope you have a great afternoon.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Cheers.